What is going on, traders? We're going to make this quick. Like, subscribe, comment your thoughts below. Let's get into the video. So, today was pretty interesting in the market. We saw a lot of upside coming in, thanks to Google earnings and Microsoft earnings. And I think we're going to continue that movement heading into Monday. Now, I tell you guys this all the time if you've been following my channel and been watching my videos that usually what happens on Fridays happens on Mondays. And what does that mean? That means when Fridays are usually bearish, Mondays are usually bearish. When Fridays are bullish, Mondays are typically bullish. And we've seen that happen all throughout the year, even towards the end of last year, where Mondays are always mirroring what Fridays do. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean just because today we had a really good move to the upside, a slight rally. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to see that Monday. We can easily just consolidate Monday and end up with a bullish doji. All right. Now, if we're looking at the Nasdaq, as you guys can see, we have a nice little cup and handle here. We are breaking back into this weekly supply and demand zone. I told you guys in the last video that 17,830 is your key level, and we broke back into that key level, or we broke back above that key level. And towards close, we retested and we closed above it. So that's a really good sign if you're bullish heading into next week. Not only that, I told you guys that about these guys over here. So we're pretty much chilling where these guys are, and we want to break above them. And it looks like we're going to be heading towards that 17,990, 18,000 range. We'll say 18,000 to be safe. All right. So next target I'm looking at heading into Monday or even Tuesday is 18,000. All right. We're going to get right where these guys are. Let's zoom in. We're gonna get right to where these guys are, and then hopefully, if you are bullish, you want them to get stopped out of their position at around 18,000. We break and hold above 18,000. We're going to head towards 18,050, 18,080 if you really want to play it safe. All right. The highest I'm looking at as far as the Nasdaq is about 18,300. After that, I still think we have more downside. I still think we're going to need to cover more downside. People get mad, or at least perma bear bulls get mad when I say that. But if you're truly bullish, you should get excited at the idea of a market drop. That gives you more opportunities to invest. That gives you more opportunities to make bigger plays, whether you trade or you're investing, whatever the case may be. It gives you better opportunity when the market drops. So it's always funny when perma bulls get upset when someone is slightly bearish for a short term. And I always say I do expect more downside short term. I am bearish short term. And earnings is not going to change that until we start breaking highs again. Okay. Until we start breaking previous highs, or not, I wouldn't say previous highs, but all time highs on the NASDAQ, I still think we need to see more downside, or we're going to see more downside. And my price target is still 16,800. But I'm not completely biased to the bearish side. I understand retests need to happen and things like that. So I will say that Monday does look good, or at least the beginning of next week does look good so far for more upside when we're looking at the NASDAQ. As far as downside goes, you want to see us break back below 17,500. That's my key level there. We break back below 17,500. I think we're pretty much done. All right. I think we're pretty much done as far as upside, and then we're going to start making a move towards that 16,800 level. But we'll talk about that once we start breaking those key levels or start breaking towards the downside. ES. I told you guys in the last video that 5080 is your key level, and we broke and held above that. So ES is looking really good as well. As you guys can see, we got our weekly supply and demand zone. We can go as high, as far as the ES goes, we can go as high as about 5190, 5200. If we reclaim 5200, that is really, really good. Okay. That is really good. If we just so happen to reclaim this 5200, and I mean, you guys see it, right? A lot of bulls are in this area. Okay. A lot of bulls. So if we can break back in here with these guys, they can probably help push us a lot higher. So we'll see. All right. We will see. But 5200, 5190 range is what I'm looking at as far as the ES. I think we can start heading towards those levels as well. Let me actually mark this out. So yeah, we are looking really good heading into next week if you're bullish. We broke down, we broke back up, and then we pretty much mounted this level here, which is around 5125, 5126. So we're looking really good on the ES. We break back below 5100. then we're heading back towards that retest level of 50.80. So be on the lookout for that. If we just so happen to have downside next week, those are the key levels that I'm looking at. We break back below 50.80, then there is room for concern. You're looking at 50.66, 50.64, give or take. And then after that, it can get really ugly. Your key level, like your ultimate key level, is 5,006. 5,006 is what you're looking at. All right. But that's what I'm looking at for the ES. Looks really good to the upside heading into next week. Uh, I don't see what can like reverse this on Monday unless we get absolutely crazy news on the weekend. I don't know. Iran nuke somebody, who knows? But looks good. Okay. Spy. So I told you guys about 510. We didn't quite get there, but I mean, we pretty much, got it right. We hit about 509.88. We get above 510, which I think can happen sometime beginning of next week. We can head towards as high as about 513, 515 range. I'm thinking as high as 515. All right. 513 will be your next target. 512, 513, if you want to be safe, will be your next target. Get back into the supply and demand zone. You're solid. Okay, you're solid. I would like to see us get like deep in here, pause, but I would like to see us get like really in here because these guys, there's a lot of sellers in here. And there's a lot of turbulence. So for us to like start breaking all-time highs again, we need like some serious news next week. Whether that's earnings, whether that's the Fed meeting, I don't know, but we need serious news to start like really just really cracking these guys down. Pause. All right. So that's what I'm looking at as far as the SPY. 510 is your key level here. You break 510, you're pretty good to the upside. All right. So I think that's going to happen sometime the beginning of next week. Looking really good on the SPY. You also got this cup and handle pattern. You can call it an inverse head and shoulders pattern. It's really up to you. I can see the vision on both sides, so I'm okay with either one. Your key levels to the downside is 505. You break below 505, then you're heading towards that 502 level, and then after that, 500. I would say 497 is the real level to be worried about if you are bullish. Okay, but other than that, that's what I'm looking at as far as the SPY. Triple Qs. Triple Qs, pretty interesting, right? Um, we have yet to retest this guy here. The symmetrical triangle, we have yet to retest this guy here. That's where I think we are heading, which is around 436. Also, it's important to note that we have a daily supply and demand zone here. So that is important to note. I am on the daily time frame. But that is important to note. All right. So once we get here, I think it's done. I honestly do. The highest we could go is about 440, 439 range, but I think we're done after that. I really do. Okay. Call it what you want. Call me a perma bear. Call me what you want. But I'm literally telling you guys that we have more upside next week. So I don't care what the market does, as long as it makes me money. But I do. There's no signs that we are going to break all time highs yet. I don't see it yet. Maybe earnings proves me wrong. Maybe I don't know what could prove me wrong. Fed meeting, Jerome Powell, somebody. All right. But right now, it looks like we're just simply retesting after the Iran thing and the Meta thing. It just looks like we're simply just retesting before that next leg down. But 436, 440 is what I'm looking at as the highest before we start seeing that move towards the downside. And we could potentially start heading towards 404 on the triple Qs. So be on the lookout for that as far as upside. As far as downside goes, 428.5 is your key level. You break below 428.5, you're heading towards 425. 425.5, somewhere around that range. Your real key level is 423. Okay, 423 is your level of concern. Other than that, that's what I'm looking at as far as the triple Qs. Oh, I just said 433. I mean, not 433, 436. You want to get back above 433.5, 433.6 in order for us to head towards that 436 level. So be on the lookout for that potential level to the upside as well. Let's get into some stocks real quick. Nvidia, I'm going to go over Nvidia first. I said this in the Discord. Nvidia looks, it's heading towards scary territory. It really is. All right. So I always tell you guys that usually trends at some point that are broken or even patterns that are broken, they need to get retested at some point in time. All right. And that's what I'm looking at for NVIDIA. Nvidia looks like it just wants to retest, and it can go as high as about 906, 905 before we could potentially see another leg down and start heading towards again this gap. We haven't filled this gap, and people are finding it hard to believe that Nvidia is going to drop, but it keep ignoring these gaps. At some point in time, there's times where gaps don't get filled, right? And majority of the time, gaps do get filled. So I think Nvidia needs to fill this gap before earnings. I think that's going to happen before earnings. I really do. Either that or earnings is the reason Nvidia fills this gap. I know that's hard to believe. I know people want Nvidia to go to $2,000 and things like that, and that's fine. If Nvidia does that, that's completely fine. But I think again, I think this is just a simple retest over across the market. I really do. And earnings and Google earnings and all that stuff is just a reason for that to happen. All right. So 905, 906 is what I'm looking at for Nvidia. I said in the Discord that 880 was a target and it did hit that. So congratulations if you did trade Nvidia to the upside. But until we get above 924 on Nvidia, then I'm not convinced on anything. If we get back above 924, I would even say 924, 932, then I have to simply say this is a retest. And 680 is still my target. There's still a gap here that needs to be filled. If we want Nvidia to have good earnings, I imagine this gap needs to get filled first. That's my thought process, and I could be wrong, but that's my thought process. Now, what can cause Nvidia to drop that low? I'm thinking AMD earnings. That's what I'm thinking could cause Nvidia to start like dropping that low. I'm not saying that's going to happen like in one day, like Nvidia just goes from 900 straight to 680, but I'm thinking a cluster of things could happen. Maybe AMD earnings, maybe bad Apple earnings, and then maybe the Fed. It'll have to take a number of things for it to drop that low, but I think at some point it's going to start heading there based off whatever news we get, whatever news causes that to happen. So until we start breaking highs, all-time highs, 680 is still my bearish target on Nvidia. As far as upside, as far as my bullish short-term bullish target, 909, well, 895 is my first target, and then I'm looking at about 905, 906 range. Okay, so that's your target to the upside if you're bullish, and then targets to the downside if you are bearish. All right. AMD. So congratulations to Discord members. We took AMD trade in the Discord. Uh, yeah. So we took trades in the Discord, and what did we do? We took profit on our AMD. So we did AMD one, what did we do? 162.5 calls for next week, and we took profit on those. So congratulations. We also did Amazon 182.5 calls. We're still in these calls right here. We took profit on AMD before close. I didn't want to hold too much over the weekend. We'll probably hold Amazon into earnings. But congratulations if you took profit on AMD. We made like $100 per contract, somewhere around that range, like 80, $100 per contract. So congratulations on that. Um, you should be up 30% plus per 162.5 contract on AMD. Consider trimming, So I always give the option to close at least 40% on plays or close to 40% on plays in the Discord. And then Amazon, we're still in Amazon. We got in at like around 177. We'll go over Amazon in a bit. But congratulations on that play if you took it. But as far as AMD goes, I know earnings is on the way. Earnings is on Tuesday, I believe. Yeah, so earnings is on Tuesday, April 30th, which is obviously next week. So the thing about AMD is that it's in this weekly supply and demand zone. It's kind of annoying. It's really kind of annoying. What I want to see AMD do is get above 163, 163.5 before I'm really just comfortable playing it for earnings. Other than that, I don't like that it's in here. I really don't. Um, I thought with Nvidia, and the reason why I took AMD calls, it wasn't necessarily because of earnings. It was because I figured since Nvidia was going to like jump, and I literally said like probably near open that or after open that Nvidia is going to 880. So I figured AMD would be like a sympathy move and follow along. It kind of did. I mean, it went from like 155. We got in at like around 155, and it ran all the way to like 158. We took profit at around 157, 157.5. So yeah, I was kind of hoping that it did a lot more, maybe 160. But if it can get above 160, what did I say, 163, 163.5, I think AMD has a lot more upside. It'll start filling this gap at around 167.5, and it can probably go as high as about 175, 180 range. All right. As far as downside goes with AMD, I mean, it can go as low as about 130. All right, 130, and that was my short target on AMD. So still sticking to that. All right, short-term target on AMD is 130. If it just so happen to have bad earnings or something else comes up, I don't know. It's also important to note. This was another thing that kind of bothered me. You guys know I like historical data, as long as it's relevant to what I trade. Um, April is the worst month for semiconductors historically. May, which is ironic, May is the best month for semiconductors. And ironically, Nvidia earnings is in May. So, kind of do the math there. Intel, it had bad earnings. So, you know, so I don't know the thesis behind that, but for some reason, April is always a bad month for semiconductors, and then May is like the greatest month ever for semiconductors. Feel free to look that up yourself, but 90% of the time, May is like the greatest month in history for semiconductors for some reason. All right. I don't know if it's because of the summer or people are just, I don't know. But yeah, that's what I'm looking at as far as AMD upside. If AMD breaks back below 145, then I think this thing is done, at least short term. I think it's done. So be on the lookout for that. All right. AMD can head as low as 120. All right. It can. All right. It can. I know that's hard to believe. The market goes up. Semiconductors can only go up. They can never go down. These targets are just impossible and things like that. But yeah, we got earnings coming up. If AMD just has bad earnings, and I'm not saying it's going to have bad earnings, I honestly am tempted to play it for earnings to the upside, but this weekly supply and demand zone is just really bugging me. I just hate that we're in here. So, but I think I dragged that long enough. Amazon. I think Amazon is going to do really good for earnings. I do. So again, we're in 182.5 calls. We got in at around 177. So Amazon's looking good. The only thing with Amazon is right now it's just in this range. All right. It's just in here with these guys. I mean, as you guys can see, we're just chilling with these guys in here. So a few things I like about Amazon. One, this island gap reversal pattern. Okay. Nice little island gap reversal pattern. If you don't know what an island gap reversal pattern is, um, it's I really don't even know how to explain it. All right, I don't know how to. It's a bullish reversal pattern. That's the best way I can explain it. But usually, what happens is that you gap down and then you gap back up, and that just forms your island gap reversal pattern. So, pretty strong pattern for the upside. Amazon can go as high as 180. If we're taking earnings out the picture, Amazon can go as high as 189, 190. I think this thing needs to be in 200s personally. So chances are I'm probably going to play this into earnings. I know that's risky. I know there's gaps to the downside as well. Also, another thing so there's good sides and bad sides to this. We can call this a head and shoulders pattern, a very come on, a very long shoulder here maybe, head and another shoulder. But this island gap reversal, if we get above 182 on Amazon, I think this thing is going like to go parabolic. I really do. I think it's going to head towards that 189 level, and then after that, it's really tough to say. Really tough to say. So I think how I'm going to play earnings is that it depends on where the market is. If Nasdaq is at like 18,000, like close to 18,300, then I'm probably going to get out of Amazon. Or if Amazon is like above, I would say if Amazon is like 183, 184, then chances are I'm just going to take my profit and run with it. I'm not going to try to hold it through earnings. All right. I don't think it will be worth it then just to give away all that profit. Um, so that's the plan. All right. That's the plan. So hopefully I stick to it. Right. But yeah, I really like this island gap reversal. Let me see if there was anything else. Oh yeah, so this weekly pattern, and again, I tell you guys, if it looks like the pattern, assume that it is. This is a hammer pattern. All right, this is a weekly hammer pattern, and that's really tough considering where I think the market is going to go towards the end of the week. So we'll see. But this is a weekly hammer pattern, and it's also a bullish reversal pattern as well. So we'll have to see. But I like Amazon to the upside. I think this thing is undervalued, to be honest. That's just my personal opinion. Do what you want with that information. Last stock, Tesla. We'll go over Apple in another video probably. Tesla piercing line pattern. If you don't know what that is, boom, there you go. Piercing line pattern has to cover at least 50% or above of the most previous bearish candle. Boom, piercing line pattern. This thing is bullish. I would have liked to see Tesla close at least above 172. Then I definitely would have traded this thing. But I think Tesla looks really good. There's also an island gap reversal pattern here. I mean, you got multiple gaps really, and then you got back up. This is an island reversal pattern. So I like Tesla. I would have liked to see it close above 172. We didn't get that unfortunately for the week, but I mean, you got bullish patterns across the board. You got piercing line pattern here. You got island gap reversal here. If Tesla gets above 175, 175 is your golden ticket to the promised land. You're looking at 180 after that, and then 184 is as high as I'm looking for now. If it gets above 185, man, I'll get to that in another video. But yeah, you're looking really good. 158 is your level to the downside. If we get below 158, we're gonna just start filling this gap all the way down to like 146, 147. All right. Apple. There's really not much to go over here with Apple. We zoom out. I think if anything was going to tank the market, let's say we head towards 18,300 on the Nasdaq or 18,150. If something was going to tank the market, it would be Apple earnings. And I mean, Apple would have to tank pretty hard. And I told you guys in another video, somebody like called me out on it, and I had to like go like really far back. I did have a target on Apple for 155, and that still remains. That still remains. Like Apple hasn't done anything for me to change my target. Historically, Apple runs into its earnings, but that doesn't change anything. Like it really doesn't. If Apple gets to 155, that is a buying opportunity out of this world, in my opinion. I said this in the Discord. But historically, yes, Apple does run into its earnings. That doesn't mean it can't drop after the run up into its earnings. So, I mean, somebody tried to call me out on that, and I had to like look back, like, man, did I say 160? I said 155 actually. So yeah, I'm going to stand on business and stick to that target until Apple shows me something different. I mean, what about this is bullish? Apple's been bearish for like the whole year so far. So majority of the year at least. So I mean, what is there to talk about? Why is 155 like a impossible target to believe with how much we've been dropping? We dropped from like 200 all the way to 160, so 164. So yeah, if something was going to tank the market, it would be Apple. If Apple goes to 155 from here, my yeah, that's terrible. That's really bad. As you guys can see, I mean, yeah. So I would consider 155 a buying opportunity. This is a monthly supply and demand zone. This is the monthly supply and demand zone. If we break below 155, sheesh, that's I don't even know. We'll have to go over that in another video. But that's really all I have, guys. Hopefully, you guys got something out of this video. Discord link is in the description below. Congratulations to everyone who took trades today. We're like 6-2 for the week, I believe. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But other than that, that's all I have. Hopefully, you guys got something out of this video once again. And until the next video, traders, have a good one.